Professor Sunita, Head of the Department, Dr. Hemalata, NSS Coordinator, Faculty of the Center for Management Studies, organizers of the programs, and future managers of India. It is delightful for me to stand before you all today, seeing in your bright faces the promise of tomorrow's India. You will soon graduate and enter a world of exciting possibilities. When I was asked to address second year BBA scholars, I recalled a recent conversation with BBA students in another city college. All of them were convinced that a BBA degree was an inadequate qualification for entering the working world. So, even before they completed their degree, they had decided that their immediate plan was to pursue an MBA degree. This led me to think about the world of work in general and how changing circumstances force us to adapt our expectations and career plans. The working world has always been dynamic. But when my generation launched our careers, the pace of change was slower. We had some time to get used to it. Gradualism was the credo of our day. Yet, as I look at myself, the service and the career I entered 32 years ago has seen profound changes. As I stepped into the IAS in 1987, Karnataka enacted the Panchayati Raj Act. This was not just a structural but a spiritual change. Structurally, we saw decentralization and devolution of funds to newly created entities like the Gram Panchayats and the Mandal Panchayats. But a spiritual change happened as well. Rural people learned to question their leaders, who were now not distant ministers but their own friends and neighbors. The IAS gradually learned to shed its hierarchical way of working and adapt to a more consultative, collaborative style. As India adjusted to this transition, there came another change, the opening up of the Indian economy in 1991. For the urban Indian, for all of you, it struck closer home. Suddenly a world of opportunities emerged which had not been dreamt of before. Once again, the bureaucracy self-adjusted and the license permit Raj gave way to a remodeled, liberalized, privatized and globalized India. In the years after the 1990s, we have seen the IT revolution, the mobile revolution, and many more incremental changes. Why is this historical understanding of work important for you? Because while change is a constant, the nature of change itself is changing. It is happening at a far more rapid pace than before. Obsolescence is faster, and there are so many overlapping transformations that what is required is not mere adaptability but agility. So, it is important that you plan not just to get an MBA in the next 2 years, you need to be prepared for much more than that. For the BBA graduate of Jain University passing out in the year 2020, what is the future of work going to be? This, as managers, what are you being called upon to manage? This is the question you need to ask yourselves. Let me give you a few pointers as to what to expect and what to do. First, what should you expect? You are entering a world that is increasingly automated. This is not new. Over centuries, mankind has gradually mechanized its work processes. But the difference is that earlier we were basically adding muscle or mechanization to what people did. If you were digging a ditch, you got assisted by a machine. And even when we automated other tasks that were not mechanical, we were automating fairly routine work. This is work that you could write a script for or a set of algorithms for, and then you got the machine to follow those rules and it did the work. What feels different now is that we seem to be building machines that seem to be doing wholly different and new things. Machines are getting at things that look like tacit knowledge, tasks that look like cognitive tasks. With techniques like machine learning, it looks as if machines are actually learning to do something. They are not being scripted to do something, they are discovering patterns and they are discovering patterns themselves. The difference also is that we are seeing spectacular demonstrations and progress with artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, and robotics in a way that has been quite extraordinary. This affects not only the mundane tasks. For instance, driverless cars will throw 25 million Indian drivers out of work, but it impacts on more sophisticated fields. Cardiac surgery is described today as a dying specialty, as surgery is overtaken by less invasive interventional techniques. Even just 5 years from now, more than 1/3 of the skills that we believe are essential for today's workforce would have changed according to the World Economic Forum. McKinsey estimates that in 2030, just 10 years after you graduate, about 16% of today's occupations would have become automated. This will in turn impact on incomes, skilling, and location. Second, what is the kind of change that will happen in the workplace? The concept of a job for life will not exist. I am not talking just about sticking to one organization for life. Some of you will remember my parents, perhaps your parents as well, have been in the same organization for the entire 30-year or 35-year career that they had. But the ability to use technology to perform more portfolio work will bring the ability for you to move between projects, organizations, and roles. This in turn will increase the demand for hybrid leaders who can work collaboratively across the public, private, and non-profit sectors and use business solutions to tackle the world's social, economic, and environmental problems. There will also be the need for continuous learning. This holds true even for fresh university graduates. The half-life of a skill has dropped from 30 years to an average of 6 years. This means that the model of learn at school and do at work is no longer sustainable, and constant reskilling and lifelong learning will be a way of life at work. Third, how do you prepare for such large-scale disruption? By self-transformation. Here is a sample of the kind of skill sets that you will require. 1. Nurture your creativity. Robots cannot compete with humans on creativity. The future workplace is going to demand new ways of thinking, and human creativity is the key to it. Along with this, analytical and critical thinking and understanding and decision making on complex issues are skills which you need to acquire. 2. Cultivate leadership and interpersonal skills. While today's typical hierarchical organizational chart may not exist, individuals will take on leadership roles on project teams at work or with other employees to tackle issues and develop solutions. This means that you should hone your ability to communicate effectively with other human beings. 3. Embrace diversity, cultural intelligence, and change. As our world and workplaces become more diverse and open, it is vital that individuals have the skills to understand, respect, and work with others despite differences in race, culture, language, age, gender, sexual orientation, political or religious beliefs, and so on. Due to the speed of change in the future workplace, people will have to be agile and able to celebrate change. Not only will our brains need to be flexible, but we will also need to adjust to shifting workplaces, expectations, and skill sets. An essential skill will be the ability to see change not as a burden or a nuisance, but as an opportunity to grow and innovate. Therefore, managers of tomorrow, it is time for all of us to begin acquiring skills that will make us a valuable resource in the workplace. Now is the time to design. As you stand on the threshold of your BBA, are you all up to it? Thank you all and good luck.